Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. What happened? Anyway, the mic wasn't broadcasting, so I had to reboot the computer. That's what happened. Okay, so welcome to the show. Welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. If you just contact me through my email address at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com, then you can find me. You can email me, and I probably won't email you back. What are we going to do? Let's see here. If you like the show, be sure and check out our Patreon, Opperman Report Patreon. We have a bunch of new content up there we just put up recently. A lot of old classic stuff. I didn't get a chance to tape much stuff this week, but we have enough content to cover all the stations. An old interview I did with Dylan Wade, Russ Baker, an interview I did with him, Dr. Judith Reisman. These are all real classic stuff, man. Oh, here's something brand new. I was interviewed about Jeffrey Epstein by Ian Totten from the Deathcast podcast, and what do you call it? That was pretty good. Leslie Sharp with Ad Free, H.P. Abarelli, Quinn Dallas, the decisive investigation into who killed JFK. So a lot of great content up there. An update on my health. Okay, guess what? Got some good news. I was able to get some health insurance, signing up to that Obamacare this month, and I can start making doctor's appointments February 1st. So that's some good news. So maybe I can pull out all this crap, that we got going on here. Our archives you could find for free at Spreaker.com. Every Friday night I do a live show at Spreaker.com. So if you're listening on YouTube, you really want to move over to Spreaker, Spreaker.com. Look up Opperman Report, and that's where the majority, 4,000 hours of shows. There you can find all the good stuff's been deleted from YouTube, so you can find all the good stuff over there at Spreaker.com. And I do a live show. There's a chat room. You get a chat room. You get an email notification when you put up new content. So great stuff over there at Spreaker.com. That's where you want to be. That's where all the cool kids hang out. Let's see. I named the show tonight "Getting Away with Murder." Okay, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But we'll get some other stuff first. Let's pull up the old notes. I had to reboot the whole computer, so now even my notes are gone. Let's see if I can find it there or there. Look in drafts. Over there. That's the problem with being oh, here we go. Right there. I guess one of the most important things I want to talk about this week is the upload. I'm going to be playing my first interview with William Hamilton, who is the founder and creator of the Inslaw.com software. The company is called Inslaw, and everybody heard of Promise, the Promise software, the Danny Casolaro octopus story. So I've taped 3 hours of content with William Hamilton, and I think there's gold. There's many things that have never been reported before, plus I have documents that have never been published before. That I still haven't published. Both William and I are very concerned about this. Because usually what happens is after you talk to somebody, about 2 weeks later they die. Okay, so I guess I've been about 1 week, so I got another week to go, right before my health insurance kicks in. And I don't know what to say anymore, or what to think anymore. Clearly, this is everyone knows the story of Danny Casolaro found dead in a bathtub. There was an NSA agent too that was found beaten to death in the back of his car at an airport. There's another fellow too. Some murders, several murders, plus an admiral or whatever it was, some military guy died a couple of weeks after talking to Hamilton too as well. So both Hamilton and I have our concerns about revisiting this topic. It was brought to me by someone who respects my work and thought I could do a good job with it. I think I did a very good job with it. Mr. Hamilton's, had this very bad memory. Now he's old. I don't think there's anybody out there that could have drawn the information out of him the way I did. It's just kind of work I'm proud of, and that I do at great personal risk, to myself. And even Mr. Hamilton's concerned about his risk to himself. As a matter of fact, even some of the documents he sent me, he doesn't want me to publish right away. And I'm going to respect that, okay? But a lot of stuff will be published. There's one thing in particular that's totally news. Is the whole story about Bill Weld. Everyone knows about Bill Weld because they've seen that one document that came out. It was first sent to me by Ted Rubenstein, where it talks about how they wanted him to go and sell this software into Middle East, and that the money was going to be laundered through a Swiss bank account. They were going to walk him through the Swiss bank, Credit Suisse there, to launder the money. And it talked about how, as we did before, so we had done this a previous time as well. But there's another document that no one's aware of, where William Weld, when he was working for the Department of Justice, or the Attorney General's office, I forget, actually put a halt to the investigation. So he wasn't just involved in the crime, he was involved in the cover-up too. So a lot of this is new stuff. And this interview with William Weld, this is the only interview, not William Weld, but William Hamilton, the man at the center of this case. So I can't be more emphatic of what I'm trying to tell you. This is the man at this. This isn't Danny Castellaro writing a book about it. This isn't these other guys writing books about it. This is the guy. And you'd think more people would be interested in hearing what he has to say, since they're so obsessed with this story. And Danny was such a hero. Well, here's the guy. And so, we put it up on Patreon. We didn't get one new Patreon, not $3 for putting this out there. I did get a lot of comments from people telling me, oh, Ed, you need to go read this book. You need to go read that book. And on page 900 of this other book, it mentions Promise and Danny Castle. Who cares? I got the guy. Does that mean anything to anybody? That you can hear directly from the person involved, or you can read a book about it? Oh, I'd rather read the book about it than hear from the... It blows my mind. And then at least one guy is telling me, well, Ed, you got to go read this book written by a complete and utter fraud. Okay? Doesn't know a damn thing about the thing she's famous for, but doesn't know a damn thing about this at all, other than what she could have read in another book or Googled. And this character's telling me, oh, Ed, you got to go read this book. The woman who wrote the book he's talking about is a complete fraud. I blocked her years ago. She was following me on Facebook, fascinated about my Tiger Woods stuff. And she was so weird then, I looked into her and I saw that the stuff she was posting on her photography page was a total hoax. And I said, let me block this person. I think years later, when I did my first interview with Stephen Hoffenberg, she's live tweeting on Twitter, pretending that she's the one talking to Hoffenberg. She's giving the exact same responses that I'm getting from Hoffenberg in the exact same order, of my interviews. And people called her out on it and says, "Hey, man, this is you're retweeting Ed Opperman's interview with Hoffenberg." And she tries to claim, "Oh no, he's not the only one talking to Hoffenberg. I'm talking to him too." I asked Hoffenberg. He knew who she was, and he thought she was an FBI agent or some kind of FBI asset or informant or something like that. But he definitely didn't give her the exact same interview he gave to me. That's the craziest thing I've heard. And people would say, "Oh, go read her book about Promise." It's just so frustrating. It's just so frustrating. People would just rather hear BS than from the horse's mouth himself. And it just, what do you do? When you get to that point, what do you do then? Just give up, let people wallow around in their BS and their nonsense. People like to be lied to, man. They just enjoy being lied to. So anyway, just 2 more episodes coming out with William Hamilton. Some really good stuff there. 3 hours total. And plus, I'm still in contact with the guy. I can ask him anything I want. We're back and forth all the time now. But I guess I'll go read a book or maybe a magazine article or something like that. Or something. Who the hell knows? It's just so damn frustrating. Let's see how we're doing on time here. I'm not in a great mood tonight. One other thing that came out this week that I thought should be headline news, but what do I know? Right? Is Alex Jones did 30 minutes about Q and QAnon. And in that, he confesses that QAnon was created by high-level people in the Trump campaign. So that very first post where you see they're talking about Hillary's going to be arrested in 5 days and TikTok, and all that stuff. That's when I first heard about Q, by the way, that very first week when it first came out. You know, because people send me this stuff, man. People send me this stuff, you know, and then other people send me the exact same thing. So, you know, I got hundreds of people sending me this stuff over and over. One day I'm just going to do a show just about I could just sit here and just go through my private messages and texts and stuff like that and just, you know, you wouldn't believe the stuff people would tell me all the time. Half of it's crazy. But this business with so anyway, Alex Jones comes out and confesses that the Trump campaign was behind Q. He would know. He knows the people. I'm suspecting he's pointing toward Roger Stone and Paul Manafort. Mostly Stone. That's right up his alley, right? And then who's the other guy would be Vallely and Michael Aquino. You know, would be behind it too, because you know, and you hear the whole story of Q is that the retired generals they chose Trump. Well, if you look at the Paul Vallely story, you know, he was mixed up with a bunch of generals who all thought that Obama was some Muslim terrorist or something. I don't know, a fake birth certificate, the whole deal there, you know. And that was right up Trump's alley too. So that all makes sense, you know. It all makes sense, man. You know, if you look at it that way. And especially some of the other things, you know, because I had a guy that was up to his neck in that Q stuff, man. He's been on the show a couple of times. I even played an ad for him for free. Turned out to be a backstabbing piece of garbage. But what do you call it? So Alex Jones comes out. You'd think this would be headline news all over the place, man. The guy who's in there at the highest levels comes out and says that Trump started Q. Right? Then you have Alex Jones talking about, and then it was taken away by these leftists. I don't know what the hell he's talking about there. By brute force, deep state. And the way Alex Jones is telling this story, too, the clips are out there. You can find them. He's like, he didn't have notes. He was going by legit memory because you could see him kind of looking up as he's thinking and remembering the story as he's telling it. So it was off the cuff. It was unrehearsed. There was no notes, and it was from his memory. So it wasn't something he was making up as he was going along. Then he starts talking about how General Flynn took over Q. Now, that's what I heard. I listened to this thing a few times, and I heard him say, and then Flynn took over. And then he had a meeting with Flynn, and he told him, hey, man, since you're the guy, and you should be running Q, you should come right out and say you are Q. Now, that's what I heard. And so I'm Googling it, trying to find some articles about this. Anybody talking about this? I find one article. And what is this thing? The Daily Dot or something? What is this thing called? I'm looking at the Daily Dot. Okay, some kind of publication called the Daily Dot, right? And it's the only thing you could find online talking about this. And I'm reading it, and I'm saying, well, that's not what this guy says that he's trying to tell Flynn to out himself, to just make, to take over the mantle of Q. Not that he really was Q, which is what I thought I heard. So then I'm looking at this, and who wrote the article? Marlon Ettinger. Marlon Ettinger, who's been on this show a couple of times, is a friend of mine. Marlon Ettinger is the guy who helped me set up my Patreon, okay? All right? All right, so I know this guy, but I think he might have gotten it wrong. I don't think he's not a bad guy. He's not lying. I know that for sure. But I think he's one of us is mistaken on this. I'm sure. And so you go out there and listen to it. Tell me what you think you hear. I think I hear him saying that Flynn did take over the role of Q. Is what I think I'm hearing. Oh my God, what is this nonsense? I never get a break. I'm thinking of just hitting the road and just point my car in a direction, man. Just keep driving, just go, and just like never come back, and just ride off into the sunset, man. Leave all this crazy BS behind me, man. Hey, what else we got here? Well, I'll go over some litigation stuff with the Trumps, the ongoing Trump litigation, and then and some of the opposition research going on out there, the cutthroat type of opposition research going on out there, and then we'll get into the name of the show, People Getting Away with Murder, because I stumbled on some stuff that kind of confirms. I did an old interview a long time ago, and I stumbled on a police interrogation video about the subject of one of my early member section shows with Kelly Bonansky. But let's see what's going on out there. We're talking about on the level of opposition research here. This guy, Michael Roman, who's one of the co-defendants in the Colorado RICO trial, gets it. Fannie Willis, the prosecutor down there, the district attorney, the Fulton County district attorney. She's the one prosecuting. It was originally 20 co-defendants, including Mr. Trump. And one of them is Mike Roman, who's like this political operative kind of guy, right? Kind of like a Roger Stone type. And he was up deep with the fake electors stuff going on there. Election interference. And remember when I was watching, who was it? It was that other fellow, the one, the only African American co-defendant. No, there's a male one and a female one, but both involved with that intimidating the poll worker. And they were having a bail revocation hearing on him because he was making threats online toward the witnesses and then the victim in the case. And I made the remark, I says, this is the worst lawyering I've ever seen. The prosecution sucks and the defense sucks. This is horrible, horrible lawyering. The courtroom litigation is a horrible trial technique and experience and savvy and just horrible. So there's Mike Roman, who's a defendant, and he's defending his case here. But his strategy in defending his case, is to dig up dirt on the prosecutor, Fannie Willis. And I got to tell you, he did a pretty good job. Okay, he discovered that Fannie Willis hired her boyfriend. He's in some type of romantic relationship, this Nathan Wade. And she hired him to be one of the prosecutors in this case, even though he has no experience as a prosecutor. And I believe he was involved, too, in that hearing, the one that I complained about and said, this is horrible lawyering. So Mike Roman digs up Nathan Wade's ex-wife, and they're actually trying to get trying to force Fannie Willis to testify in his ex-wife's divorce case. So, but just imagine the chutzpah of a criminal defendant digging up dirt, blackmail dirt, on your prosecutor, and then filing a motion saying, well, she should be removed from the show. By the way, she should resign. If she hired her boyfriend, and he has no experience, to work this case, and the guy is a buffoon in the courtroom, she should resign, at the very least. And if there's no deputy prosecutor that can step up, right, and step into her shoes and prosecute this case, then that's a sad state of affairs for the Fulton County, Georgia. They can bring in a seasoned pro to take over. if that's the best they got, man, they're in big trouble. Even though they're getting a bunch of guilty pleas and cooperation here. But that Mike Roman, man, this guy's got the chutzpah steel, man. You know, he's got the cojones of a bull to be going in and digging up dirt on the prosecutor, man. That's real hardball. Okay, on a level, you know, I've dealt with some organized crime guys in the high levels, man. That's a level I've never experienced in my life. Going after the prosecutor for dirt. E. Jean Carroll. Now, so like in day 3 of the E. Jean Carroll case, she already won her case in defamation. It was proven that it was ruled that Trump is liable for rape, that Trump is guilty of raping this woman civilly. Civil judgment there by the judge, okay? And then he went back to defame her even more. So now there's another trial for even more damages. And on top of that, in the past 48 hours, he's written like hundreds of messages on the Truth Social there, attacking her morals and ethics and credibility and all kinds of stuff, man, horrible things. Now, the fascinating part about this, this is how you can kind of tell. By the way, Joe Tacopina, who's a very experienced New York criminal attorney, just resigned from the Trump case this week. And so that Habba woman is running this case too now. And she is so over her head, it's not even funny. She's a young woman to begin with, but just so over her head. And there's just so many trials now that she's involved in. She's already been disciplined down in Florida, filing a lawsuit against Hillary Clinton that the judge had all PO'd on her. So just way over her head now. But it seems to be Trump's the one that's running his defenses here. He's micromanaging things. Since I talked to you last time, he actually went up and he did part of his closing argument in that fraud case in New York State. Now, in this case here, he's showing up at court every day and he's talking out loud and he's being disciplined by the judge for making insulting remarks there during the witness's testimony, the plaintiff's testimony. And it seems the strategy here is, now you remember, Trump is denying that this sexual assault ever took place. Okay? But the way they're cross-examining this witness, that the plaintiff in the case, E. Jean Carroll, is claiming that, well, she's a loose woman. She has low moral standards, and she's asking for it. Okay, they're using that old 1940s defense that you could use back in those days, that the rape victim was asking for it. Now, you could say that if you admit, hey, listen, we had sex, but it was consensual sex. But that's not what his defense is. His defense is, this never happened. I don't know who she is. But she's asking for it, even though I don't know who she is, and this never happened, let me tell you, she's asking for it. Which is just, first of all, to anyone, a young woman like Habba is not going to come up with that kind of defense in 2024. It's a ridiculous defense for anybody to try. But an old guy like Trump thinks, oh yeah, that's how you defend rape cases, by saying they asked for it, where at the same time he's denying it ever happened. So that is just legal malpractice, man. How they're letting this guy micromanage all his defenses and just letting him do it, and watching the consequences just rain down on him. That's what they're doing. He's getting away with murder. The Mar-a-Lago docks case, man, is looking more and more like that's just going to be postponed, and the judge is so far in the bag that he may get an acquittal on that one, man, believe it or not. That's right. One of the chatters says, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. Trump talking about others' morals. I know, it's so true, right? But everything's just so backwards and so upside down. I can almost feel a little bit bad if you look at the funeral pictures today of Melania Trump, and she wouldn't let Trump get in the same car with her, and they didn't even hold hands once or even wave goodbye to each other, man. This poor guy, man. I listen. My heart goes out to anybody out there, to see him suffering like that, like a poor dog. But the E.G. Carroll case, he's just piling on the damages, man. He's just making his case worse. He put the last nail in his coffin in the Letitia James fraud trial by in his closing argument there, just like pretty much yelling at the judge. What do you benefit from that, man? You get a little steam off your chest, man, and it's going to cost you $400 million. And it looks like this E.G. Carroll case too, man. Looks like this could cost them, man. They could hit him like $25 million here, man. Damages, punitive damages. Because really, she doesn't have damages, Her credibility was ruined, wasn't making that much money. Mar-a-Lago Docks case, it looks like he might beat that. Then the latest thing here too is now they're going after Nikki Haley. The opposition research team is going after Nikki Haley. And it seems like they've come up with some credible information that she did have an affair, that she's had a couple of affairs with people that work for her while married. She's an adulterous woman with a scarlet A on her chest there, so she can't run. And meanwhile, too, by the way, too, the guy Ziegler, they should call him Dirk Ziegler. Ziegler, I think it's Christian Ziegler down there, the GOP Florida GOP chair that was forced out of his spot there because he and his wife, who was the Moms for Liberty, they had that threesome with that poor woman who had a diminished capacity. Well, the local prosecutor and the local investigators have declared they've charged him with the unlawful voyeur camming, filming her without her permission. I forget what it's called. In fact, it's a charge I've never heard of before. But they're not charging with rape or sexual assault or sexual battery, which at least sexual assault, you would think. But no, he's getting off on that. And he's going to get this voyeurism charge. So he had to be forced out of his seat there at the GOP chair. He wouldn't resign, And then the guy they appoint, this guy named, I think it's Evan Power, comes up, they video dash cam, body cam video comes up of his DUI arrest a few years ago. He crashes his car. He's a mess DUI. And then he's got a loaded gun with one in the chamber. Okay. And then he also, something about silver bars. He had silver bars in the car. Who the hell knows? Man, but that's the guy who they pick because to overcome the guy with the scandal of rape. They bring in an armed, drunken, car crashing, the silver smuggler. Oh my goodness! It's just like one thing after another. Just like one crazy scandal after another. Oh, by the way, hey, we got a new sponsor called HelloFresh. And if you go to HelloFresh.com/Opperman free and you order any kind of a meal plan kit to your home, what do you call it? You get free breakfast if you use Opperman free promo code. Now, I don't get any commission on that. It's a straight ad. And the live reads that I've done, they're not going to go in this show. They're going to go in the shows that play. So I'm just letting you know that if you do order from them, and by the way, too, I ordered the vegetarian meals, and I told them I was vegan, and they sent me over vegan meals. So they do serve vegan food. And so far, it's good, man. They gave me, the free breakfasts are great. They got these muffins, and stuff. And then they got some tacos tonight and some kind of, I think, coconut curry. I don't forget exactly what it is. But so far, so good, man. I'm enjoying this stuff. HelloFresh, /Opperman free. And by the way, too, get this. They found out that if you're a vegan, okay, you have a 40% less chance of catching COVID. Even catching COVID. If you're not a meat eater, odds go way, way down. So let's get into this stuff here about getting away with murder, even though Trump is getting away with murder, okay? And they got away with murdering Dana Castellaro, right? And all the other folks are on the promise case. And Trump and getting away with murder with this whole Q business, man. You know, traces back to the Trump campaign. Nobody's talking about it, but people that know me. What else we got here? Real quick. Yeah. Back to my notes. I might get to the notes. Okay. Remember a show long time ago, Kelly Banansky. It was in the old Opperman Report members section. I think I've played it free a few times. And she was a pen pal with Richard Ramirez, and he would call her up at home, collect, and he would ask her, "Hey, what's that on your refrigerator? What's inside the refrigerator? Well, you know, what's inside your cabinet? What's next to the phone?" And was asking what the room looked like and stuff like that. So she was close friends with Richard Ramirez. And she was friends with this other character, and she talked about it, Gregory Scott Hale. And his story is that he met this woman in a bar. No, not in a bar. He met her in a liquor store. She was drunk already in the liquor store. He meets her there and takes her back to his garage where he's staying because he got kicked out of his home and he had like a 14-year-old son, and they moved back into his parents' house. He was living in the garage. The son and the mom and dad were living inside the house and their dog. Okay, so he brings this woman back to his garage, bachelor pad. And according to him, you know, because what happened was, I did this show with Kelly Banansky. So he kills her, starts cutting up her body, and then takes them out to the burn pit and eats some of her flesh. Then calls up a buddy of his and says, "Hey, man, you remember how we always talked about wanting to kill somebody and eat them? Well, I got somebody over here. We can come over and eat them." And somehow he gets arrested. Okay. And I always said to Kelly Banansky, and I talked about this case before, and I says, the guy's living out in the garage. There's no bathroom in the garage. He's got to get from this garage through the house to the backyard. He's cutting up this woman. He's got to have blood all over him. He's not washing up. He's got to wash up inside, right? No one inside this house saw him killing this one. No one heard her screams. She's being killed in this garage. No one else is arrested but him. What the hell's going on there? I says, the family had to have known. It's impossible. Now, when I'm hearing that story, I'm thinking that, okay, he killed her, he put down some tarps, some towels, okay, and he cut her up, It's worse than that because his interrogation is available on YouTube. And soon as I hear this interrogation, I says, hey, I know that story. That's the Kelly Banansky story. And it was. And how does that police interrogation start off? The police officer says to him, well, I've been friends with your mother for many, many years. I've known your mother for a long time. That's why the mother was never charged. That's why the father was never charged. That's why only one guy in that case was charged. Now, I'm thinking he's putting down some tarps, he's maybe cleaning up as he goes along. No. He's chopping her up with an axe, a dull axe, and a dull pocket knife. He's not even going inside the house getting saws and nothing. He's chopping away in the garage like the seven dwarfs in that mine, chipping away with their anvils and their sledgehammers, man, and their pickaxes. That's what this guy's doing in his garage. And then the blood is seeping into the carpet. So his plan is, I'm gonna go back later on and cut the carpet up and dispose of it and try and wash it down. But there's blood everywhere. He tells the cop. So there's blood everywhere. This guy wasn't worried about his parents finding out, or even his son. And then, hey, Dad, what's all the blood? Son, what's all the blood in my garage? You got it on my Honda. Okay, you got it on my Accord. Son, can you wipe that blood off my Honda Accord? But no. He does all this, man, with no fear of his parents finding out or anything like that. And his parents seem to have no concern of the police finding out, because the police found out and nothing happened to them. Now, that's not the only one. That's not the only case like that. Where I see these cases, and I said, well, how could here's one for you. Rodney Acala lived with his mother in a 2-bedroom apartment. And he's bringing these young girls back to the place. He's killing them over there, and he's chopping them up in where his mother lives. How could she not know? It's impossible. There's another one that I talked about a few times, right? Shane, what is it? I think it's Shane Floyd is the guy's name. That's why I got his first name here. Oh, I might have it over here. It was this guy in Las Vegas, right? He gets fired from his job as a security guard. Zane. No, that's not it. Yes, it is. It's Zane Floyd. Zane Floyd. That's the guy. This 23-year-old kid, right? He gets evicted from his apartment. He loses his job. He has to go back and live with his parents, right? So he's living over there 3 o'clock in the morning at his mom and dad's house. He calls up an escort service in Las Vegas, and they send this young woman over to his place there. And he rapes her. He beats her. And he sends her running from the apartment naked. And it was a couple hours, man. He was raping and beating this woman in his mom and dad's apartment. Mom and dad, do they intervene? Do they call the police? Do they say, hey, Zane, stop killing people in our apartment, Zane? It's bedtime. No, they don't say that. No. Nothing happens. They let him beat, rape, and this woman, she's running down the street out of the apartment naked. Nothing, no consequences for that whatsoever. The only reason we know about that is because later on at 5 o'clock in the morning, Zane took his shotgun and he walked down the street over to a supermarket and killed like another 10 people in that supermarket there. That's the only reason why we know that Zane brought this escort back to his mom and dad's house and beat the crap out of her and raped her. Otherwise, no one would even know. No one would care. Because it seems like you can get away with this stuff. You can just do it, you know? And there's people that are in the house that are witnesses, and there's absolutely no consequences to them whatsoever. And I don't know how that works. And it just seems to be over and over and over again. Okay? And it was another case, man. And this one is really close to home for me. There was this little boy named Daniel Thoreau. And his stepdad or his mommy's boyfriend was Joshua Oxford. And the mother was, I forget the mother's name. It was like Kathy Stevens or something like that. And she was 20 years old. She had this little 3-year-old boy. And Joshua Oxford, her boyfriend, was 40 years old. And what happened was, it came on the news. No, there was an alert that came out on Twitter and on people's cell phones and stuff like that when this happened, that this little boy, Daniel Thoreau, his mother had taken him to Sunset Park in Las Vegas to go feed the ducks. Now, right, Sandusky's wife is another one I talk about all the time, right? There's another one. How could you not know? They're taking Sandusky is taking these little boys back to his place and sleeping with them in the basement. Well, his wife is upstairs in her bed upstairs. How could she not know what's going on down in the basement downstairs? You know. But this little case here with Daniel Thoreau, little 3-year-old boy, cutest kid in the world, and we get this notice. Okay, there's this boy. His mother took him to feed the ducks in Sunset Park in Las Vegas. Sunset Park, it abuts Shenandoah. Dunca Shane, who's that guy? Wayne Newton's house. Okay. Wayne Newton had a big piece of property. kid with all kind of peacocks and little animals running around and stuff like that. I would have to drive by there every day to take my daughter to school because her school was right by there. So after school, we would go to Sunset Park and we would exercise by running around the track there. And Mike Tyson's house is right by there too. It was right next to Wayne Newton's house. And Mike Tyson was known. He used to go jogging in the track around Sunset Park with his bodyguards. That was part of his workout. He would run there for hours. And so I would take Victoria there almost every day. So we knew every inch of that park. There was little trails and stuff like that, and there was little playground areas. There was this big lake where they could feed ducks. People fed ducks there, and all kinds of stuff. We would go there all the time. So we knew that park like the back of our hand. So when we get this notice that this little boy was there with his mother feeding the ducks and he turns up missing, they asked for volunteers to come and search the park. So right away, I called up a bunch of friends of mine, people I knew, and I organized a little search party that we can go down there and help search. And we were all walking around, I knew a lot of places where kids could crawl into, like there was like drainage pipes and stuff like that near the trails and stuff. So right away I went looking at those kind of places. Had a flashlight with me. And we were all yelling, Daniel, Duty, come on out, Daniel. We're all looking for this little boy who they're telling us is missing in this park, right? And there was a bunch of cops around, too. They weren't doing much looking. They were, standing around on their radios and stuff like that, kind of directing things. And at one point, we could hear them on the radio saying that they were searching over at Lake Mead, which is a good 30, 35, 40 minutes away from Sunset Park. And that they were over there looking over there. And at one point, even one of the cops kind of told us, he said, keep looking, but, that we're looking over Lake Mead. I forget exactly what happened, but there was a point where our little crew looking for this little boy, where we know damn well we were not going to find him there in that park, but there was just some kind of disbelief or some kind of detachment from reality that we kept looking and we kept yelling, Danny, 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 even though we knew that kid wasn't there. I knew. But we kept doing it. It was just the craziest thing. And it turns out what happened is there was like a whole week of torture of this little boy. The mother's boyfriend, this Joshua Oxford, felt that the little 3-year-old was misbehaving, so he poured boiling water on him. And then he made him stand in the corner. And they went out. Joshua and the mother went out, and they left the boys behind with Joshua's mother. And in her compassion, seeing this little boy getting beat and abused and boiling water poured on him and standing in the corner, she let him go lie down for a couple hours. Okay, you can go lie down. Saint of a woman. But when Joshua and the mother came back, he got even more mad, and he made the boy get up, go back, stand, and he went back to beating him again. And then ultimately the kid next day woke up dead. Then he never woke up and was dead, And so they took the body and they put it in a plastic container and they took it out to Lake Mead and they disposed of the body. And then later on confessed that that's what they had done. Now they got a lot of time, but guess what, man? Grandma didn't spend a day in jail. I don't think she spent 1 minute in handcuffs. Nothing. Now, how can you be a witness standing there? You're living in this. By the way, that was the first day she ever met that kid, too. She had never met these kids before. How can you be there a witness to seeing someone pouring boiling water on a kid and beating a little 3-year-old to death without lifting a finger to intervene, and you get no criminal charges? I don't know how that works, man. But you see this over and over and over again. Like, is it the cops say, well, we got enough here. We have enough to close this case, and we were done with this. You know, or in the case of this fellow here, his mother knew the cops, was friends with the cop who was the detective in charge that was doing the interrogation. The Rodney Acala stuff, man, that's so shady. Rodney Acala was a student of the guy from the Manson family, the filmmaker, Roman Polanski. He was a film student of Roman Polanski, and one of the dead bodies that he disposed of, these young girls, he disposed of on Marlon Brando's front lawn, which was right next to Jack Nicholson and Robert Evans. They all lived up there in that area. Bunch of fine, upstanding folks. So, and then also too, we found that whole thing too with the young boy who we thought was a victim underneath John Wayne Gacy's house. We found a picture of that same boy, about 5 years older, in the collection of Rodney Acala's pictures. So Rodney Acala was involved in nationwide child trafficking. He was involved with Roman Polanski, who was a statutory rapist, to say the very least, plus his connection to the Manson stuff, Rosemary's Baby, all that stuff. And dropping bodies on Marlon Brando's front lawn. You know, Marlon Brando's son, Christian Brando, you know, convicted murderer. I believe involved in at least one more murder that I heard about. Best friends with Michael Jackson. You know, they were best friends. Okay, Michael Jackson and Christian Brando in high school, along with Danny Bonaducci. And all three of them were best friends, hung out together. And I heard a story once. And Danny Bonaducci claims that the story, the Less Than Zero book, was based on their high school where they all went to. And if you read the book, they talk about they all went to see a snuff film one time in this book. Okay, and that Danny Bonaducci says is a true story based on reality, true stuff. Okay, I did a whole show about it. Okay, you can go back and find that. A lot of good content if you look in the old repeats and stuff like that. A lot of good stuff out there. Yeah. All right, we're out of time. So keep an eye out for part 2 of William Hamilton. I'm playing part 1 tonight. And then I'm playing an interview with, I did about, what's this guy here? Refresh my memory. This Life of Ours. Really good stuff in this thing. In this interview, I got the book right here in front of me. Let me pull it up. It's Matthew Birkbeck, and it's a best-selling book, and it's about the Buffalino crime family who murdered Jimmy Hoffa. And Big Billy D'Elia, who was involved in all this kind of stuff I did. And the Buffalino crime family, too. Russell Buffalino was involved in the Bay of Pigs and trying to overthrow Castro. All that stuff, you know. So, and you got to listen carefully. Okay, you got to listen carefully. I was wondering why Birkbeck wanted to come on my show, because it's a bestseller already. He doesn't need to sell any books. You know, the most you can sell on this book is like 500. On this show is like 500 books. The weekend you're on. Of course, you know, after years and years and years playing the repeats over and over again, you sell more books. But that's like a big, you know, a big weekend for this show is 500 books. Is a big deal. But, yeah, this guy doesn't need me. Why do you want to come on the show? And I think if you listen carefully, I think you'll pick up why. At least what I think why. And then I'm going to be playing right after this. Coming up right after this is part 1 with William Hamilton, Mr. Promise from Promise Software, the Danny Castellaro octopus story. This is an exclusive interview. The man has never done a radio interview before in his life. I'm the only one who's interviewed him. This is the guy. This is not a book about the guy. This is not a YouTube about the guy. This is the guy. You know, and you'd think that would mean something to people, but no. In this day and age, man, people they think a YouTube video two goofballs sitting in their living room with sunglasses on and hats, talking to each other, and researchers, have better information than the real man involved in reality. And when we've reached a point, man, of total detachment from reality, if you can tell me that's the same thing, And what I can tell you, here's an interview with the guy. Oh, Ed, listen to this YouTube video with these two guys talking about it. Just unbelievable. I'm in the wrong business, man. I have been for quite some time. And I'm just ready to go out and just point my car and keep driving. All this, I'm just spitting in the wind, man, with all this crap. All right, we're out of time, and the whole intro was all messed up, too, because my mic wasn't working. I had to reboot. So coming up after this will be William Hamilton, Part 1 of a 3-part series. New documents to come in the Opperman Report Patreon. So keep an eye out for that if you want to see that. I'm a little worried about what to post and what not to post. It's kind of pulling teeth with this guy. Is this safe to post? Is this safe to post? I don't know. All right, guys, have a good night. I love you. Good night.
Everyone has gone away. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No one cared enough to stay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You must remember me, oh man. I know that you can if you try. So just open up your eyes, oh man. Look who's come to